everybody, and welcome to 6 Minutes of Wisdom. I'm Cynthia Shane, joined by Ross Johnson and Randy Starry. We're going to be talking today a little bit with spring coming and evolving, something called a master calendar. Randy had forwarded us an article the other week from one of our outside resources, and for me it was really timely given my recent move to a new home. They talked about all the little reminders that come up once every few months, once a year, and how do we remember how to do all those things? So Randy, do you want to talk a little bit more about what you found in the article?
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting. Basically, a personal master calendar is putting all the things down that you have to do each month and kind of looking out and reminding yourself. For example, how often do you normally check your smoke alarm batteries and replace those? Like, I guess you're supposed to do that on daylight savings time or something. Do any of you guys do that?
I have a friend that I used to work with, awesome guy, that he would always do it at Thanksgiving just so he didn't burn the house down cooking the turkey. That was his reminder. He'd go around and change all the batteries in his smoke detectors on Thanksgiving. And that was kind of his natural reminder. But my mom used to have kind of a master calendar that she put up, but it didn't have any of these things on it. It was just everyone in the family's birthday. And when you're one of 10, all your siblings, your nieces, your nephews, she just had them all kind of on a calendar that would just pull out and have everyone's birthday on there, but not a lot of what was in this calendar. Randy, what else were you seeing in that calendar? What else kind of sparked your mind that you thought was a good reminder?
Well, Cynthia just moved, so I'm guessing she might have done this, but does anybody schedule to clean under or behind their refrigerator?
Yeah, no, but it's funny that once in a while, all of a sudden I'll see a little dust or dog hair coming out and it's like, oh, it's time again. But honestly, I've thought about tracking this in my mind. It's like, oh, I should probably put this on a reminder so I remember to do it. And then you do it, you clean it, the day goes on, month goes on, you move on. And then, I don't know, it happens again. But no, it's definitely something that I think could be and should be scheduled. I know I do oil changes. I mean, I could wait for my car to tell me, but I'd rather be proactive on something like that. So I do it on that, but it's not a calendar. It's just an Outlook reminder.
There's even some financial things that we do as far as with looking at insurance, kind of revisiting our policies that, we trust our agent. He does a great job, but, we look at that regularly, making sure that things, some of Molly's jewelry that she doesn't wear regularly and hasn't lost yet, or the kids haven't lost, making sure that that's still around or getting it polished on a regular basis. We try to do that semi-proactively, but there's so many household maintenance things that you just don't think about. Cleaning out the dryer vents. When we left our house in Appleton, it had never been done in 10 years. We were in the house for 5, but the 10 years the house had been around, or, it had never been cleaned out. And that's a big fire hazard, something that should be done every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And it'd almost be a good idea. For me, with just having moved, it's a little bit easier because it's kind of right in front of your face with having to get things done. But a good way to create a master calendar might be just to start on any given day and just track what you do for the next year. Because you may not think about things until they come up. And you can track it for a year, and then you've got your master calendar going forward.
Right. And then there's a lot of things that you just put off during the summer. You're like, it's summer, I don't want to do it now. But, in those cold days of January and February when you don't know what to do with yourself, maybe you go back and say, okay, now I have time to, I don't know what I'm going to come up with. But, there's certain things that are always in the back of your mind. And so when the weather's lousy, that's when you work on them. I don't know about you, but that's why I think tax season is, it's good that April 15th is tax season because, you don't feel like walking outside and, you're not going to the beach in January unless you're wearing.
I was going to say, you might be doing that. We're
not.
But the point is that you put those things off, but when you go back to your master calendar, when you're sitting around on some cold day or even a rainy day down here, it's like, well, what should I be doing? And then you go back and look and say, oh yeah, I should go and check all my prescription bottles and throw out all the food in my refrigerator or in my cupboard that's past due. Those are that's what I can do today because it's raining out and I don't have anything better to do.
Right. I know for us, our trigger for our furnace filter, checking that on a more regular basis was in the middle of January when the polar vortex came through a couple of years ago and kicked us out of our house in the middle of the frozen night. Rest assured, my husband does have that scheduled now.
So we're going to post a link somewhere. Why don't you tell everybody how they can see an example of this master calendar?
We will send out an email with this podcast, which you all should have in your inbox should you be listening to this right now. And we'll have a link right in there as well. If you navigate to our website under the podcast page, we'll have a link to a PDF of an example of a master calendar. I have all sorts of examples of things that you may or may not be thinking about on a regular basis to ensure you're checking on.
Like pool maintenance for Cynthia and not for anyone else, or cleaning your guns. There's a lot of different ideas on this example.
Yeah.
I don't have any pool to clean and no guns to clean at this point in time, but some people do, so those should be on their list.
May or may not be applicable, but it's some good ideas to think about.
All right. Any other good word for the order on this particular subject?
No, I think with as reliant as a lot of us are on our phones and the benefits they provide, there's also a lot of functionality to create a list on your phone. So it doesn't have to be a master calendar and a document piece of paper, but you can put those reminders in your phone. Whether it be your furnace filter, when you change it, just set something for 6 months in the future to do it again. Or when you're changing we talked about the batteries in the smoke detector, you can set that up in your phone to be recurring on an annual basis to make sure it's there. But by having something laid out like, handwritten or a document saved in your notes of your phone, that allows you on a slow day when you don't have a lot going on to visit and say, what do I have coming up? What should I be doing this month or this time of the year?
I think it makes it feel a little less overwhelming.
Exactly. If you don't have, if you have it kind of broken down
right.
and kind of spread out.
Yeah. It's kind of going through old documents too this time of year. We really don't need 15, 20 years of tax returns probably laying around. So maybe once a year, take one box of paperwork, purge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I do that every year. Like when you're doing your taxes, you get the new tax return. You're supposed to save, 7 years of tax returns is what I've done. So then I always throw out the 7th year and, put the new one in. But you begin to realize how fast 7 years goes when you do that. Just like the next 21 and a half months, right, guys?
Little plug.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and hopefully you got some useful information out of this podcast. 6 Minutes of Wisdom. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do so on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can ask Alexa to play 6 Minutes of Wisdom Apple Podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Disclosure time. This podcast is intended for informational, educational purposes only. It is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any security or investment, or to participate in any particular trading or investment strategy. The information contained is considered to be from reliable sources, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. We do not offer tax or legal advice, so please consult your tax or legal professional for information specific to your situation. The opinions expressed are those of the show's hosts and guests and are not necessarily those of Robert W. Baird & Company, Incorporated. Please note past performance is not indicative of future results, and diversification does not ensure a profit or protect against loss. All investments carry some level of risk, including loss of principal. You should carefully consider investment objectives and risks in any investment before investing. An investment cannot be made directly in an index. Securities and investment advisory services are offered by Robert W. Baird & Company, Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member NYSE, FINRA, and SIPC.